The cult presents itself as liberation and establishes itself as a prison. The person who enters thinks they are taking control of their own life, but they are only handing the key to their own consciousness to another. There is no logical way out of that structure. Only those on the outside can see it clearly. Only those who still think with autonomy realize that absolute control begins with a promise of salvation. We want to be free, but we are terrified of what freedom demands. This is the contradiction that defines much of human suffering. We crave autonomy, but we beg for direction. And that desire for direction is precisely where indoctrination is installed, not as imposition, but as an irresistible consolation. The philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote in his Pensées, "Nothing is more unbearable to man than to be in full repose, without passion, without business, without distraction, without occupation." He then feels his nothingness, his abandonment, his inadequacy, his dependence, his helplessness, his emptiness. That is the open door. The human being, faced with the silence of existence, easily gives in to the first voice that claims to know the way. The cult does not indoctrinate with shouts, it indoctrinates with presence. It binds, it does not invade. It gradually replaces critical thinking with a repeated thought. And when the subject realizes it, they no longer think, they reproduce. They no longer choose, they react according to the script. They no longer distrust, they simply believe. The most perverse thing is that this process is not perceived as violence, it is perceived as a rebirth. The individual feels that they are finally at peace, when in reality, they are only anesthetized. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance reduction. It is when the mind, to avoid the discomfort of profound doubt, reconstructs reality around the belief so as not to have to abandon it. But this theory is only useful if we understand that this reconstruction is not an error. It is a defense, a way to stay alive amidst the absurd. Albert Camus, in The Myth of Sisyphus, proposes that the human being lives in a world without objective meaning, and that this realization leads to what he calls the absurd. The cult offers a functional lie. It answers the absurd with doctrine. It answers chaos with rules. It answers anguish with belonging, and that, for a time, seems like healing. In everyday life, we see this dynamic in minor versions. People who follow self-help gurus, business people who turn corporate leaders into oracles, teenagers who adhere to totalizing ideologies because they are lost between identity and rejection. The mechanism